Welcome back, everybody, to a free episode of D-Town TV, the free show for DSLR shooters. My name is I had to get the free thing in twice.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Double free.
And double free. My name is RC, and I'm joined with the ever-impressive Mr. Pete Collins. What's going on, bro?
How's it going?
Good, good, man.
It's good to be here.
Now, look, I brought Pete in because all of this kind of started based on talking about gear. So we got to talking about gear, and we're like, what kind of gear? And we did all of that stuff over on the grid. And I found people constantly kept asking about what was the one piece of gear that I was absolutely, without a doubt, a big fan of. And I said, but there's a person in this group that actually goes out and does shooting, and does weddings and portraits and things like that. Pete, you keep really busy at taking these kinds of jobs.
Yeah, I go back and forth. I definitely try to do as much as I can. It's been busy around here, but when I can get out and shoot, I definitely go out there and do that. Weddings, family portraits, events. I used to cover everything.
So I was just like, you know what, rather than me just kind of talk about my own thing, you have a couple of pieces of gear that you go to, and I figured, you know what, this would be a good time for us to kind of do a quick show and tell on that. What are you, when you're out on the field, what are the things that you go to when you need to use them?
Well, I sort of have a couple different things. If let's say I get a phone call, hey, can you come do this shoot or whatever? I kind of have stages of stuff that I have depending on how much gear I can bring. And my go-to light, hit the ground running, take a couple lenses and just a single flash because I'm going to do like a single portrait or whatever.
Okay.
One of the first things I grab is this little thing right here.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why is
I'll hold it for you.
It's a little Giotto mini ball.
The MH1004.
There you go.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be this one specifically, but I just simply put a cold shoe attachment to it. And the reason why is, all the time in the past, I'd have to carry around one of those umbrella brackets.
Okay.
Put everything in. Well, I don't use a lot of umbrellas these days. What I like to use that sits in my bag is the wonderful LumaQuest Softbox 3.
Okay.
And this thing folds up so nicely, but then I just pop it on here and it's beautiful light. But coupled with this, I can simply attach that, slide that on, stick this on any kind of light stand, monopod, whatever I've got going on. And down and dirty, I've got a quick light that I can use for a portrait session.
Because it's got a thread on the center. Can you pull this out?
Can you pull the thread out?
Oh yeah, well, obviously the thread, you would just thread it onto a light stand, right?
Yeah, so it goes, you can either do a 3/8 or a 1/4, slide on there, and it's ready to go, whatever you've got. And so this is gonna go real quick and easy. I'm not gonna have to worry so much about sandbagging because it's not going to be blown around by the wind too much. A lot of times I'll grab my wife or somebody and just have them hold it. Okay. And it doesn't kill them. But this is a great go-to flash for running.
Just for like a run and gun.
Run and gun. And I just did a post on G+, that's PeteGplus.com, to talk about, I had a beach portrait session that went from taking pictures of one to three kids to an entire family of 11. And all I had was this with me. And how it worked
why
out.
did you only have that for a family of 15?
Well, because they said it was only for 3 kids. And when I got there and showed up, there was a family of 13 waiting for me. So anyway, I had to crank it all the way up, and I worked it, but it's a great little lens to have.
Now, while I'm talking a little bit about that, do me a favor, pull that off and collapse it real quick.
Well, that's what I love. It goes right into I always have one of these in my camera
I was going to actually talk about it, but I don't have enough time. It's flat. It's really, really cool. So I think that's great, man. And I saw you do it and kind of set it up for it because I was like, he goes to this a lot. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this. So if people want to find out more about you, they can go to Pete G+.
PeteGplus.com.
Canon shooter?
Canon shooter, yes.
Canon shooter. Now, what camera do you use there?
I've got the Canon 7D. Love it.
And now it's sitting at an angle. Why is that sitting at an angle?
Why is it sitting at an angle? We've talked about this before. One of my favorite attachments, yes, nice segue there, is I love the spider attachment.
That's
the
it.
Belt system.
That's it.
Bam.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything because you know what? We're going to come back to that. You're going to see some more pictures. Not this episode. It will be at some point soon. But you know what you will see at this episode? Ann Cahill. She's got some great tips, dude. Ann Cahill's the man. She's over at Adorama. Take a look what she has to say.
I can't wait to do this again.
Hey guys, I'm here with Annie Cahill, and she is in professional markets. She's the director at Anorama, and just a great photographer.
Thank you,
and
Larry.
a camera nerd too. I learn all kinds of stuff from you all the time. And we were talking recently about posing problems and just general issues that we as photographers run into when taking pictures of people, couples, things like that. And so we were talking about posing problems. Tell me about the one that that when people are not right beside one another.
Sure. A big problem is having the autofocus cursor go right in the middle of, now it could be a couple,
Right.
but say if you have to take, a company group shot, that can become a big problem, especially if people don't feel comfortable kind of,
Right.
leaning in. So you have to pay attention to where your focus cursor is. Now, a lot of the cameras are set up for autofocus lock, so that could be a technique to use to program that button. Or you can focus and recompose. That's actually a favorite for me with an icon system. I'll put a cursor, say left or right, and then I'll just shift the camera slightly, and I'll recompose. So this way I don't have to worry about the cursor going straight through, my two people.
Now, we were talking about some other issues as well. One of them is, I got this one guy that would blink and almost blink in anticipation of a flash.
Yeah,
What do you do?
it's tricky. Well, when you're using a flash, people often forget that TTL, there's a pre-flash going on. So that can be a big problem because that pre-flash will definitely set off people blinking. But you can actually just go to a manual flash,
Okay.
where there's no pre-flash, and that can be a very quick, easy solution. Also, depending on which flash you have, some of the newer Nikon flashes, you can actually still be in A mode, but turn off the pre-flash. So
Nice.
that's another tip, depending on which Nikon flash you have. So this way you can still benefit from some of the automation and not be completely manual.
Okay, so consider getting rid of the pre-flash. That's a cool idea.
Just a quick tip.
Yep. And then other things with getting people to relax for the camera. What else? What do you have there?
Well, I think the big thing too is remember, and obviously we've heard photographers talk about this all the time, is that people feel very vulnerable, when they're sitting in front of the camera. So the big thing is to just talk to them. It sounds pretty basic, but I mean to just talk to them and try to have them relax. It makes a big difference if it's a couple or a
You
group.
were even talking about how you hold your camera at your side and watch the couple specifically while the camera is not potentially going
Yeah.
to take their picture.
Yeah, you always look for people's body language because obviously they can get real stiff when you have the camera to your eye.
Right.
And then as soon as you drop the camera by your side, just watch what they do. And they can even, strike a really interesting pose, or they can get comfortable with each other, and you may have a very, you may have a great candid moment. So the other thing is to take the camera away from your eye, but always have your finger on the shutter button to be ready to grab a moment.
That's a great idea, great tip. Annie, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
There's a lot you can learn from this lady. If you're in New York, go to Anorama
Larry.
and visit her. And if not, go to Kelby Training and check out some of her classes over there. That's what I do. Guys, thanks so much.
Thanks,
We'll
Larry.
See you later.
Thank you so much, Ann, for that. Now, got to get a little bit of a point of correction. For the point of correction, we're going to go to camera two. Camera two. Ann is a phenomenal woman. She's a woman. But I love Annie to pieces. I think it's, there's only probably one person who probably loves Annie more than I do. But this is a person who is absolute, and we were talking about it while we were running this, because we were looking at it. She's absolutely tack sharp. She's been forged in the fires of Nikon. That's all she did for a while. So she lives and breathes this stuff, and now she's doing stuff at Anorama. And just phenomenally brilliant person for this kind of stuff. So it's really nice to kind of get her out here to talk a little bit about just the basics, just absolute, not like nanometers on a sensor or things like that, but just the common problems that everybody would have on something like that. So I thought it was kind of cool. I haven't talked about that yet, though.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
We got to talk about that. But before we do, well, actually, no, you can go ahead and just head over there. Let me explain where all of this stuff came from, right? So people were asking about what my favorite setup was, right? What kind of setup do I like to use when I'm shooting? And more often than not, this is the go-to. Now, this isn't. This, the outside, all of that stuff is. This is the Westcott 28-inch Apollo. I wouldn't pull that off just yet. I would let's just talk a little bit about what the problems are. This is an umbrella-based softbox, but a lot of the times people are like, all right, it's a softbox, you know, what are the differences? What are the nuances to it, and why would you care? So rather than just me sit there and go, look, I love the Westcott softbox, this is what I would use, let's talk a little bit about why that would happen. And I'm gonna use my buddy Eric Vallon that I did that with. So here's this one picture that we have. Let's just go ahead and just kind of take a look at the picture. Eric, okay, so he's here. So pretty much evenly lit, right? Background looks like a gray, right? It's actually a white background, but because of the distance, it's actually coming out as a gray. So light's being thrown everywhere. Why is it thrown everywhere? Because we're using this, the umbrella. When you use an umbrella, it's kind of like throwing a grenade in the room, right? A grenade of light that gets thrown all over the place when you're working with this. So this is, but it's the most portable, right? So you can put that kind of anywhere you want.
Yeah, and it sets up real easy. Just pop it open, boom, stick it on a client.
Okay, so that part's okay. Take a look at this picture. Now you'll notice that automatically the background's getting a little darker. Well, then that means that at one point you have some control over the light, right? It's not going everywhere. It's actually being regulated into one spot. His features also look a lot softer. More often than not, that's because of a soft box. Right? So you take a big square of light, you put it really, really close to the subject. Because all of that light is condensed into one specific area, tightening that light up allows you to control what it looks like between the foreground and the background. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, if you take that light and you make that light even tighter and tighter and tighter, more often than not, what you're doing is you're using a grid. What a grid does is it takes all of this light that's going all over the place, right? So you have all this light that's fanning out, and it's almost kind of shining it through straws. And it takes that light and it narrows it. It narrows it, narrows it, narrows it, narrows it, and it puts it in very specific spots. When you do that, the fall off, right? So let's just say if you're lighting this, the fall off on that light is going to be very, very drastic. So it gives you a great way for you to control where you're putting the light and where you're not putting the light. This could be an example of using a grid. So what's happening here is the light is tied to a grid. It's relatively short to where he is, but you'll notice that from the nose to the back of the ear, there's just a little bit of fall off, but then after that, straight to black. So same environment, nothing's changed. All we've done is change the different modifiers. So how does this help when you're using something like the Apollo? Well, for the most part, this is the newest thing that we can get. Let's go ahead and pop that off. That, I think, is probably one of the things that's going to take the Apollo to the next level. They just added this. I'll go ahead and I'll just grab that from you when you get a chance.
Yep.
So this is the grid. You didn't have this before. Now you do. You can take this and add this to the Apollo, and you can further control the light. But before that, this was the main setup that you had. Now, there's going to be a very, very big difference when you're using this type of softbox. Obviously, you get big, soft light, but you also have this part right here. You see this little lip right here? This, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pivot it. You'll see that it's actually deep. This is what's called a recessed softbox. And what that does is, by having a recessed softbox in these sections, you can put this right in front of me, right? Let's say in one spot. And because this is recessed, it almost serves as a flag. So what this does is it prevents light from going this way. So it's flagging as well as doing some softbox stuff. So it gives you a lot of versatility. Now, on top of all of that, if you wanted to be able to collapse it, you can just go ahead and rip out your front. This is going to be one of those loud episodes. Sorry, can't figure out another way to be able to do that. We'll just go ahead and pop the rod.
Just like an umbrella.
That's why I love it. So you have all of this versatility. You've got beauty of a softbox. You've got feathering because of that recess. And now, a grid. It makes it a really, really good combination. So, but it wasn't just enough for me to tell you that I loved it. I wanted to kind of tell you about the different types of light and how you would use it and why you would use it and why you would specifically care about these kinds of things. So,
well, I want to say something real quick.
Sure.
When you think about packing, say you're doing a wedding or something like that, you end up carrying a lot of gear. So the ability to pack it down to a small amount, but then be very useful. This is huge. Your grid's only this big. You pack all that in, and it goes down to this.
It's a very small footprint,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And
huge.
so you put that on a stick, and then all of a sudden, forget it. I mean, you're getting great, great portraits just in that one spot. So I think they do really, really well. If you want to see more information on them, the best place for you to go is go to fjwestcott.com. They're going to have all of that information in there. And they also have a new Octabank, which is something, it's like there it is, the octagonal Apollo orb. And that also has a grid, which I think is really, really cool. But let's go ahead and go to contest. Guys, you can win one of these products. Pete?
Well, Johnny, the first is the eye stabilizer.
Nice. Very, very cool. If you want to
You've
be able
used
to.
the eye stabilizer.
Dude, I love this thing. I absolutely love this thing. I've used, in fact, I'm going to make a blog post of all of the different ways that I've used the eye stabilizer that have nothing to do with holding the phone, which is what it does very, very well. So, absolutely love it. You're going to love it too.
Then we have the Rogue Flash Benders. It's great. Kind of like what I showed you before. It's quick, easy, put it on your flash, bend the light, reflect it, bounce it. It's just a great little product to have. Slides right into your camera case. Love that. And then you're going to need to gel your flashes.
Nice.
And so we've got a great set of Rogue gels that go right on top of your flash. That's a great product right
Now,
there.
for the how to do this, what you need to do is you need to go to the kelbytv.com/DTown TV. You need to find this episode that we're dealing with and leave a comment inside of that. You could be watching this on YouTube, Google+, Facebook. There's so many different places that you could be watching this, but our producers could only pick one spot to do that. The Kelby TV page is the place where you're going to do that. So, Pete, thanks so much, dude.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
It was one of those things where I called Pete last minute and I was like, Pete, can you come on the show? And he's like, I got this. I got this. So it was good to have you on, man.
Thank you
It was
for
good.
asking.
And thank you guys for stopping by, and we will see you next week on D-Town. Take care.